This is my dissertation and theory of how the Incans cut their big stones. Some were 20 feet tall, back between 14 and 1500 AD in Lima and Cusco and wherever else they built them. I've never been there, I don't know. But I have a theory, and I'm surprised that no one else has seen it. Now, years ago, I took anthropology, and in that class, which I took it because I'd signed up late, and that and underwater basket weaving were the only couple of classes open. But in the class, the teacher said an anthropologist, which I only took one class of it, so I'm not an anthropologist, but she said that a researcher has to put themselves in the time period of the people being studied to understand how they did things, how their culture worked. Okay? Now, between 1400 and 1500 AD, we know for sure the Incans didn't have any of this stuff in this garage. All this modern, great stuff. Nothing. There is one thing they had in this garage. But I bet you can't guess what that is. They didn't have concrete or paint or electricity. Their day began when the sun came up and ended when the sun went down. They had no music, electricity, MTV, no distractions. What they did have was discipline, manpower, organizational skill, and allegiance to the state and their emperor, who was a sun god, or, well, most of them are, they're all high up guys like that. Anyway, they had a form of allegiance. And they also had these gigantic stones at Cusco and some of the other places. Everyone. Now, we also know a few other facts about the ancients that lived there. They did not know about the wheel. Okay, they had no cars, no concrete, nothing like that. They had no metal cutting tools that they have found, as far as I know. I mean, from what limited things I've looked at. Now, we have to set the stage here. You're in 1400, okay? And all your whole life is developed to the tribe. There were 6 million of them in different tribes that took over. But all of them worked together to move those stones and to put them where they are. Now, 150-ton stone, moving it by hand must have been a heck of a job. But the fact is, they did move them. How they moved them exactly, we don't know. But the big mystery is how they cut and coped those large stones so you couldn't put a knife in between them. Now, I've studied the pictures of their fortresses and their other things, and I've come across a commonality in the stones, in every one of the stones, that makes sense. And when I came across the commonality, I started to think, well, how could they have done it? It's a neat mystery, that's all I know. Anyway, I think I've solved the mystery, and I'll explain it to you. Maybe not. Maybe this has already been solved. Maybe my theory has already been put out there. But I want to do it just in case there's a, mechanical engineering prize out there somewhere, or I don't care if someone else can get the paper, I just want the money. But that's just me. Anyway, we know they moved the stones. They used a lot of manpower. One Spanish gentleman said that they had 2,000 of them pulling a stone, and a couple thousand behind that had ropes on the stone over these passes, and they'd slipped off the pass and this 2000 had gone down the cliff and it died. Hell, they just replaced them. So we know that they all work together. Okay, and therein lies the key, which we've overlooked. The problem is we live in 2010, and we think in a biased 2010 mind of, oh, they couldn't have done that. No, that wouldn't have worked. This wouldn't have worked. But if it's all you had, then you can do amazing things with just a little bit of things. All right? So I thought about that, and I came across the answer. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you.